Well, good afternoon and welcome to Mondays with Michael Live. Welcome to Mondays with Michael Live, our special Thursday edition today. Thank you all for joining me. And if you're watching this post session, thank you for watching post session. Today's session is actually going to be a little longer session. So I normally do 10 minutes on a Monday and even 10 minutes during the week. But we thought we'd offer a little longer session. So today's session is going to be a little longer, could be about 30 minutes. We'll see where we get to at the end. But today's session is all around managing your time. I know we're all hunkered down at home, and I know that our time right now is probably not all ours, but sooner or later we're going to get through this. And so whether you watch this now or come back to watch this when you're back at the workplace, managing your time is very, very important. Believe it or not, time management or time mastery is still one of our more popular programs. Our clients use the assessment. We still teach it from time to time. So it's one of our more popular subjects. In this time of everybody running 300 miles an hour, how do I schedule my time? How do I use my time? How do I maximize my time? It's a very, very important subject. And for those of you watching today, if you watch until the end, I have a little bonus for you if you listen to this at the end. But you have to stay to the end. No streaming the video across to get the last 2 minutes. Watch the video, learn something, and then I'll give you an opportunity to learn a little more. So as always, I'm going to go to my notes. So this is an actual program we teach. It's the time mastery program we teach. So I'm going to go through it, all 12 areas of time mastery. I'm going to give you a couple of tips in each of those areas. So I'll take a couple minutes each. And then along the way, other things I've learned over the last few years with myself and scheduling myself with my time and whatnot. So let's get right in it. So the assessment is a personal assessment that measures your time mastery or lack thereof, depending how you score. And if you're really honest with yourself, you'll come up with a really good score, like any other assessment tool. You need to be honest with yourself. It's only as good as the data you put into it. But the time mastery assessment measures 12 areas of time management. I'm going to take a look at my notes. So attitudes, goals, priorities, analyzing, planning, scheduling, interruptions, meetings, written communication, delegation, procrastination, and time teamwork. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes on each today, give you some tips, and then, as I said, an opportunity at the end of the session for a little bonus work for you. So my first area is all about attitude. So I don't need to tell you that having a good attitude when it comes to managing your time is very important, because you're either at the mercy of time, you're at the mercy of what happens around you, you have no control, or you take control of your time. And some would say if you take control of your time, you take control of your life. But having a good attitude makes a really, really big difference. And when we teach the class, we tell participants in the attitude program, part of the program, that we want you to select one new thing, something you're going to learn in the next 30 minutes we'd like for you to take and try. Now, you may not be able to try it now because you're at home, but eventually we want you to try. And you may be able to do some of this at home, depending on how you're running your schedule. We want you to try something while you're at home. We want you to try it for 3 weeks, 21 days. If you talk to anyone that's in the change behavior business, they'll tell you that if you do something for 21 days, it'll change your behavior. You can change your alarm clock an hour, your body will recognize it. You go to a workout routine for 3 weeks, normally you'll stay with it. If you diet for 3 weeks, it takes about 3 weeks to get your body used to the new diet, you'll stick with it. So we want you to pick one thing, and stick with it for 3 weeks. Use that positive attitude in controlling your time. So the next section is goal setting. So goals are the big chunks you really want to do. Those things you want to do in your career, at your job, in your personal life, could be your fitness life now that you're at home. For me, as you know, fitness is a big important thing. So you have these large goals, and it could be getting the promotion. It could be getting the new job. It could be running the 10K, 5K, half marathon, cycling, the century ride. You have that big goal. We suggest you write those goals down. You have them someplace. Put them down someplace. I'm going to accomplish these large things. Okay? These large goals. Make them short term. Make them long term. We have a financial planner. You probably do also. It says, where do you want to be when you're 62, 65, 70? When do you want to start your 401k? Well, you start it when you're young, because when you are 62, 65, that's a long goal. You want to have $1 million in the bank when you retire. So those are the things you take a look at. Making those large goals, making those really, really large goals. Big, big goals. They need to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, time-bound, realistic. I spelled that wrong, RT. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time. Smart goals. Make your goals smart. So now that you have your goals, right? You can't do the goal. You have to do some things to reach the goal. So you have to have your priorities based on those goals. What are the important things you need to do, and what are the urgent things you need to do? We spend a lot of time, and I work with a lot of organizations that are in the urgent mode most of the time. And it's tough. It's tough for them. A lot of stress in the organization, a lot of sickness in the organization, but they're in that urgent mode. Get it done yesterday. Charge, charge, charge. And if you end up in that urgent mode all the time, you're not going to get a lot of the important things done. You want to get the important things done, and you want to get the important things done first. Because if you don't get the important things done first, they end up being urgent things down the line. Now, we all live in the world of urgent once in a while. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I live in the world of urgent once in a while. Client calls, you want to get that thing to them right away. But I try to do the most important things first. Those things that I need to do to keep the business going, to keep the clients happy, to build my new programs if I'm building a new program. I try to do the important things first. Try to do the important things first. Okay, then we want to analyze. Now, when I coach an executive, when I do executive coaching, I always do this. I always do the time mastery assessment. I want to see where they're spending their time. But I also ask them, and again, you can't do this now. You may do this when you're back to work, to actually do a time log. Take a look at where you're spending your time. And it is amazing if you do this for a week. And I usually ask for 2 weeks from clients. Do this for 2 weeks, and then they send me their logs. I send them the logs. They send it back. I analyze the time. It's amazing how much time the executives I coach are spending doing things that they just don't need to be doing. They just don't need to be doing. Whether they're spending time in meetings that they don't need to be, whether they're doing work they don't need to be, or where they're coming and going where they don't need to be, there's got to be at least 25 to 30% of the time that I see in these logs that the folks I'm coaching are doing something they really shouldn't be doing. It's controlling your habits. But keeping the time log will be a good way to analyze how much time you're spending in meetings that you don't need to be. And we'll talk about interruptions, but the clients I coach seem to be interrupted a lot. And we'll talk more about interruptions in a little bit. So now we talk about planning. Okay? So how do you plan your day? So you can plan your day a couple ways. You can plan your day the night before. We have a lot of clients who plan their day the night before. So the night before they leave the office, they take out an 8.5 by 11 legal pad. These are the 3 or 4 things I need to do tomorrow. And that's great. Having a plan when you come in the morning is always good. Some people do it when they get to work in the morning. So they get to work in the morning, they write the 3 or 4 or 5 things they really want to get done that day. And that becomes kind of your planning and your checkoff list for that day. But if I were to ask you what your weekly plan was between Monday and Friday to accomplish your number one goal, what are the 5 things you're going to be doing that are currently planned out for you to do? Not a lot of folks could do that. Not a lot of folks could do that. So what is your plan for the day? What is your plan for the week? Now, you can use to-do lists, and you can use your calendar. And you can use this for the work side of your life, and you can use this on the personal side of your life. If you were to look at my Outlook calendar right now, though we're not really doing a lot of working out, though I'm working out here in the house, but for those of you who know me, all my lifetime workouts, all my runs, all my biking, everything is in the calendar. It's all laid out. I have a plan for the week. If for my weekly plan is to yoga once, run once, bike once, that is all in the calendar. I don't figure it out as I go along. I make a commitment to myself. I put it in the calendar. If I'm planning a training program for a client and that program is going to be delivered in a month, well, I have a month to plan it. I actually plan out this week I'm going to do this part of the program. This week I'm going to try and plan that part of the program. And that week I'm going to plan that out. So by the time we get to the 4th week, that is all done. And again, doing the important things, staying away from those things that are urgent. You don't want to do the fire drill thing the week before the client needs the program and just running around trying to put it together at the last minute. So use your Outlook calendar, use daily lists, be flexible. We tell supervisors and managers that planning about 60% of your time is okay. because you want to leave yourself free to interact with your direct reports. We work with some managers when I get their logs, their days are pretty much filled up from beginning to end. It leaves them no time to flex, to adapt, to be available for their employees. They tend to run behind in scheduling. They run late to meetings. And the thing is, they've got their whole day planned out. You can't run from 8 in the morning to 6 at night without a break, even if it's just lunch break. And again, I have clients who eat lunch at their desk because that's the only time they have, and they're doing 4 other things at the same time. Not good. Plan, strategize, make a plan, stick to the plan as best you can, move things around if you have to. Be available if you're a supervisor for your people. Very, very important in your planning process. You do not want to plan your whole day. Okay, let's talk about scheduling. So, okay, we plan your day. You're starting to plop them into the schedule. So we always tell clients to get an early start. Hit the ground running. I work with a lot of executives. They get to the office and they're at the water cooler checking in with the folks about whatever, sports, anything else that's going on in this town. And they don't hit the ground running. It's like, they get to work at 8 and they don't start working until 9. I'm not sure why that is, but according to the logs I see, happens quite a bit. Get to work at 8, start working at 8. If you get to work at 9, start working at 9. Leave the chitter chatter for lunch. Leave the chitter chatter for after work. Hit the ground running. Get an early start, hit the ground running, make yourself a commitment to get the one thing done right away when you walk in the office. The other thing we recommend, and we work with a lot of teams, and we recommend this with teams, is scheduling quiet time. What's quiet time, Michael? Quiet time is a time of the day where you shut the door of your office, and for at least an hour, you get no interruptions, you don't check any email, you don't check any voicemail, you just focus on your number one priority. And I know that's tough to do in some cases, but if you can do it, 1 hour of interrupted time is actually equal 1 hour of uninterrupted time is actually equal to 3 hours of interrupted time. So when I worked at my last full-time job, I used to keep almost like a tape on my door, and we would rotate that 1 hour. This is my quiet time, and then people would leave me alone for an hour. And I work with a lot of executives that say, Michael, I get here at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the heck are you getting there at 6 o'clock in the morning for? I get here at 6 o'clock in the morning because I am the only one here. I can get some stuff done. Why? Get there at 8 o'clock like everyone else. Put a sign in your door. Leave me alone for an hour. Get that work done. It's very, very important. And then rotate that hour. Everyone else needs that hour. Now, there are some obviously this will work. If you're working the front desk and customers are coming in, it's a whole different deal. But if you're in an office situation and you got 6 people in the department and you need one person available for customers or for employees, and then you rotate that hour. And you get so much more done, so much more done. Schedule some quiet time. No interruptions. Share with the team. Again, we talked about preparing tomorrow's schedule before you leave for the day today. Very, very important to make your plan for the next day. What are you doing the next day? Okay, let's talk about interruptions. It's probably the thing I see most of in the logs I get from clients. It's one of the big things I hear from clients when we teach the class all the time. Michael, it's interruptions, it's interruptions, it's interruptions all day long. So, first of all, I need to share with you that you control the interruption. You actually control the interruption. Let me give you a couple tips. First of all, if somebody were to walk in my office right now and say, you got a minute, the first thing I would do, or at least I would suggest you do, is to stand up. Now, I would stand up right now and show you, but I've got shorts on, so I don't want to show you my shorts. But if you stand up in your office and someone comes in and says, you got a minute, now you're at eye level with that person. Now you control the conversation. And when that person comes in your office to chat for a minute, which you know is never a minute, you can actually eyeball them and say, okay, what's going on? And at that point, you can make a decision whether this interruption is going to take your time right now. And if the answer to that question is yes, make it as short as possible because you're standing up. Or if this is going to be a deeper conversation, reschedule that conversation. Listen, I can't talk to you right now because I'm in the middle of my number one priority, but come back at 3 o'clock. I'll schedule you for 15 minutes and we'll have this conversation. Okay? You control the interruption. You also control the phone interruption. When I was doing logs for these clients of mine I do these logs for, I found out that it was sometimes the same person calling this person 8 times a day, interrupting them. Assess that and then have a conversation with that person. Listen, you're calling me 8 times a day. Let's do this. Let's meet for a 10-minute meeting before lunch. and let's meet for a 10-minute meeting before we go home at night. And everything you need to say to me, unless it's an emergency, we'll cover in that 10 minutes. I've had clients that do this, and it really works for them. So they do these kind of check-in meetings throughout the day, unless it's an emergency. I mean, we all run into emergencies once in a while, and that's okay. But general interruptions can be managed. Can be managed by you because you control the interruption. Limit socializing. We talked about this earlier. There's a lot of time to hang out by the cooler. Again, you can socialize during lunch. You can socialize after work. Get those hours in. Get your work in. Get done. Get home. Again, looking at my client log, sometimes it's amazing to me how much socializing they do. You can also rearrange your furniture. When I worked at my last job, I had two, this is really funny. I had two chairs in front of my desk. And you know what happens if someone comes into your office? Boom, they sit down. And once they've sat down, they own you. They own you. They're not going anywhere. Sometimes they bring a cup of coffee, and they bring a cup of coffee for you. Then they really own you. You're good for 12, 15 minutes. It's going to take you away from your schedule for the day. So what I did, I actually turned over the chairs. So when somebody would come to my office, they would ask permission to sit down. And again, depending on the topic, I either turned the chair over for them or I didn't. So again, just a little trick so that those folks who walk in your office know that you are in control of your office. And they need permission to take the time away from you right now. So again, something else to think about when it comes to interruptions. Okay, so let's move on to meetings. Meetings. I cannot tell you how many teams I work with that have too many meetings, that don't do nothing, that don't have an agenda, that never get anything done. And I find out by sitting in those meetings, they tend to be more social gatherings than work meetings. There's the donuts, there's the bagels, there's the coffee, there's the lunch, there's the whatever. And half the time they're talking about socializing, they're talking about gossip within the workplace. It isn't really a lot of work getting done. I'll sit in the back and take notes. I'll debrief with the team, and I'm like, is this what your team meeting looks like all the time? Yeah, Michael, this is pretty much it. Well, I would suggest you either cancel this meeting permanently, or at least meet less regularly so that these folks actually get some work done. So some tips about meetings. Now, we do a whole training program on meetings, and maybe one of these upcoming longer sessions I'll do on meetings. But we do, again, a whole thing on meetings. So have to have an agenda. Get that agenda out to the group so they know what they're expected to prepare for. Start on time. I'll say it again. Start on time. And this is the leader's fault. If your meetings don't start on time, it's your fault. Set the priority. Set the standard. Start on time. End on time. Facilitate discussion. Everybody has an opportunity to speak. Have somebody take notes because not everybody can be in the room. And make sure everyone has a responsibility when they leave the meeting. So if you have 8 people on your team, all 8 people need to be responsible for something between meeting A and meeting B. But again, my suggestion to you is to keep meetings as short as possible. Heck, I work with some clients that have stand-up meetings. They're literally standing up in the meeting because if they figure if people sit down, it's over. So that's an option for you too. Keep your meetings short, have an agenda, get to the point, have everybody participate, and have everybody have an assignment when they leave the meeting. And again, if your meetings are not producing anything, don't have them. Just don't have them. Think of a better way to communicate what you need to communicate with your team. It could be via email. It could be via shared folder. If all you're handing out is information, getting project updates, you can do that other ways than getting 10 people together in a room. What we do with a meeting class, we actually cost out the meeting. The average meeting in Washington, D.C. of 10 people for 2 hours or even an hour, for an hour is about $1,500. 2 hours is about $3,000. If you do the salary of everybody in the room and the time that they're in the room and the time that they're taken away from their work, they're not productive, it's about $1,500 an hour in this town. And I've told folks that are in our training classes, if you can't cut the CEO check of $1,500 for a non-productive meeting, don't have the meeting. Don't have the meeting. Okay, so let's talk about written communications and organization. So like everyone else, we're probably getting more emails now than we were before the pandemic started. So this is a good time, and it's always a good time, but this is a really good time to get off all those email lists that you've been trying to get off, but you've been too busy to hit that unsubscribe button. Unsubscribe. Clean out your inbox. Organize your folders. Organize your Outlook or whatever Gmail you're using. Get it all. So I see some clients and their inbox has about 1,000 emails, and I'm not sure what's going on there. And they can't find what email was sent by when. A couple folders would help, even by client or by whatever you're trying to do. Organize your inbox. Get off email lists you don't need. Unsubscribe to magazines you're never going to read and newspapers you're never going to read. When I go to the mailbox to pick up company mail, 2/3 of the mail goes in the garbage can at the mailbox. It never comes into the office. Because what happens if it comes in here? It's just going to pile up. It's just going to pile up, pile up, pile up. And then who knows where it's going to end up. That's the first thing you want to do. Declutter. This is a good time to declutter. And in the declutter vein, my suggestion to you, and I do it in my office at least once, twice a year, is to go through everything. I go through all the drawers, all the cabinets, the leader's guides in the back there. I clean it all. I go through everything. Because if I haven't used something in 6 or 7 or 8 months, it's gone. If I haven't read it, I have magazines over here that I keep for a couple months. If I haven't read them in 6 months and I haven't ripped out the articles that I really wanted, they're gone. They're history. They're toast. They're in the garbage, in the garbage. Leaders guys I haven't used in a couple of years, I don't teach anymore, gone. Declutter. Declutter yourself. Get into healthy habits. Clean your desk, clean your office, clean your email. It's and it's a great time to do that right now. Just get it done. Get it done. Delegation. Let's talk about delegation a little bit. Delegation does a lot, especially if you're a supervisor. Though we do work on a lot of teams who delegate sideways, and it's also pretty cool too. But delegation as a supervisor does a lot of things for you. It really frees you up and gives you more time to do the things that you can do and only you can do. So when I get these logs from these clients and we talk about how they're spending their time, as I point out things, I say to them, okay, see these 3 things? Do you have to do these 3 things? And they're like, no, I don't have to do these 3 things, Michael, but I like doing these 3 things. Okay, liking them is okay, but do you have to do these 3 things? No, Mary, John, and Sue can do those 3 things for me. I can delegate. Then delegate them. Because by delegating them, it gives you those time frames, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, for you to do the only things that you can do in the company. We really recommend that executives, for the most part, only do the things that they can only do. Now, I'm all for the roll up your sleeves and help the team do whatever needs to be done to move the business forward, and that's okay too from time to time. But as a general rule, you should be doing the only things that you can only do, and delegating those things that you like to do but don't have to do. Plus, it gives you a great opportunity to coach and to upskill those that work around you. Because those that work around you, believe it or not, may want to be promoted some days. This is an opportunity for you to coach and teach somebody another aspect of the business or something that they can build on their career, so that when somebody comes knocking on their door, they're ready to move up the ladder. So this is a coaching opportunity. So what we do with clients is we have 3 columns on the paper: things you currently do, list; things that you don't have to do, list, which leaves only things that I can do, me, Michael. And those are the things that are on the far right. And by doing that, we go back through the logs and we remove those things. Boy, the client finds they get multiple hours a week delegating things that I really don't need to do. So delegation is a very, very important part of this process. So delegate those things, even sideways. You can delegate to other team members. And that makes the team a bit more productive and they're working a little better together. So the next topic is procrastination. I think I'll tell you about that one later. Nah, I'm only kidding. I'll tell you about procrastination now. We all procrastinate. We all do it. Everybody does it. So if you're looking at this going, I don't procrastinate, Michael, I call bullcrap, because you procrastinate. We procrastinate all the time. We procrastinate things that are too large for us to accomplish in a short period of time, things we really don't like to do, and things we think we could get done in a short period of time right before they're due. We do it all the time. The biggest reason why we do it is either it's just too big. We find that with clients, it's just too big. I procrastinated this thing so long, now I got to crunch at the end. So we always recommend that if you have this big project, this big goal that you're trying to get down, try to whittle that project down into parts. It's called the Swiss cheese method of time management. So you got this big thing you got to get done. You slice it up, and you do this on Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Wednesday, this on Thursday, this on Friday, and by next Monday it's done. You're not waiting until Friday night, 4 o'clock to do it. So take that thing and slice it up. We also find people procrastinate things they really don't like to do. Going back to the delegation model we just talked about, you can delegate those things you don't like to do to others on your team that like to do them, because there are things that probably they like to do that you would rather do. So this is that sideways delegation. You do this, I do this. I really like doing this. You really like doing that. Let's delegate. Let's delegate. So you're not put in a position where you're forced to do things for the most part that you really don't like to do. So don't put off things. First, recognize we all procrastinate. Don't put off things. Cut things up into smaller slices. And then the last thing about procrastination is always tell people to reward themselves. You know, when you put something aside and you've got something done that you've really been trying to do for a long time, reward yourself. I mean, we do it once in a while here. I mean, sometimes, you know, we'll score a nice deal, or I'll deliver a program that I got really good feedback on, or, you know, pick up a new client, you know, we've been working on for a while. Reward yourself, you know. Me, it could be something technology related or something else, but reward yourself. Take yourself out to a nice lunch. Take your team out to a nice lunch. Reward yourself. It's very, very important to reward yourself as you accomplish these goals and you try these new things. And then there's the last one is team time. Team time. Again, most folks don't work alone. They work in groups. They work in teams. So it's very, very important to be a good team player when it comes to time management. Number one, don't be someone else's interruption. We talked about interruptions before. You don't want to be the one interrupting everybody all the time. Don't be anyone else's interruption. Try the team time, you know, the 1 hour team time, you know, the silent time, the quiet time. Be a participant in that. Be a good example. If you're a supervisor, please be a good example to your others when it comes to time management, getting to work on time, starting to work right away, you know, not chit-chatting, making sure everyone's focused, not being anyone else's interruption, delegating, those types of things. Be a good example. And then I would add this to an agenda item to your team meetings. How are we doing as a team when it comes to time management? Are we getting things done on time? Is there a nice flow of our work? What are things we can do better to be more productive? So add this team time concept to one of your team meetings. So those are the 12 areas of time mastery. Let me recap them, and then I'll give you a little bit of a bonus. So developing the can-do attitude, right? It all starts with the attitude. Establishing clear goals, both professionally and personally. What are the big chunks you want to get done? Know what to do by prioritizing. What are the most important things you need to get done right now to reach that goal? Analyzing my time. How am I spending my time every day? It's very easy to do a log for a couple of weeks. Keep a clipboard by your workstation. Just log in what you're doing. Then analyzing it. Mastering planning. Plan out your day. Plan out your week. Plan out your month. Plan. Only plan and schedule about 60% of your time as a boss. Maybe 70% of your time if you're a frontline employee. Control the interruptions. And remember, you control the interruption. You let people interrupt you. Don't let that happen. Improve meetings. If the meeting doesn't need to take place, don't have the meeting, or make sure the meeting is productive. And we'll talk more about that in one of our other sessions. Communications. Make sure that your office is cleaned out. You're decluttering. Decluttering. It's like decleansing if you're going on a diet. Decluttering. Clean out the inbox. Clean out your office. Get off all the mailing lists. Increase delegation. So for those of you who can delegate, delegate. Get those things off your plate that you really don't need to do. Conquer procrastination. We all do it. So make sure you know you do it and try to do those things not to do it. As we talked about, cutting up the big things into smaller parts. And then working with the team, developing some team strategies when it comes to time management. So as we talked about in the beginning, this is the time where, you know, a couple of things to think about. One, my hope for you is you pick one thing that you want to try. And we talked about this earlier. You can't do 5 things, especially when you're working from home. It may be difficult to do these, but try to pick one thing that you want to start doing either now or when you get back to work. And try that for what we talked about, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Try this new thing for 3 weeks. So rerun this tape if you need to. Find that one thing and do it for 3 weeks. And then come back and try something else. Do it for 3 weeks. Okay, so your bonus, if you watch this whole thing, something bonus for you. If you would like to take this assessment, Time Mastery, I'm willing to give anyone who watched all this and has decided to pick one thing that they want to try. I'm giving all you folks who watch this the ability to take the assessment for free and for me to walk you through your assessment results, a 30-minute free coaching session on your time management assessment. So you have to pick one thing. You have to watch this, pick the one thing you want to work on. I'll give you the link to the assessment. You and I will spend 30 minutes together, and we'll chat about it. I'll give you some thoughts, some feedback on what you can do to get better at managing your time, better at managing your life. And so that kind of wraps it up today. Looks like it's going to be about 30 minutes of time. So thank you for hanging out with me today. This is a special edition of Mondays with Michael Live Thursdays. We are going to be doing more of these 30-minute, more in-depth sessions. Coming down the pike, we'll do one on listening. I think we'll do one on meeting management. So keep an eye on your social media, wherever you're seeing this. Send me a message. Let me know what you think. And make it a great day. And we'll see you Monday. Mondays with Michael Live. Take care. Bye.